Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. SAG-AFTRA Foundation and BroadwayWorld continue their filmed Conversation Q&A series, which celebrates the vibrant theater community here in New York City. This event, which is coming from the Robin Williams Center, is a special conversation with two of the stars of Jeremy O. Harris's groundbreaking, provocative, raw, dazzling, and daring slave play. Please welcome Blankson-Wood and James Cusati-Moyer. How many people saw Slave Play? Good, a large number of you, wonderful. You know, there are life-changing moments in the theater as an audience member, and Slave Play is one of them. As actors, how life-changing was Slave Play for each of you? It's a big question to start with.
I mean, I'll go, I guess. Go ahead. It was majorly life-changing. The show itself requires so much of both the audience and of the cast. And I think I learned that actually I'm a lot stronger. I'm capable of a lot more than I thought I was, because of the challenges of this. The challenges of this play kind of brought out this need, this strength in me, which I think I didn't realize I had before. So I feel totally changed by that. Yeah.
Beautiful. James, for you.
Yeah, I mean, this play has been a part of our lives now for almost 2 years. And we were just, Atu and I were strolling here saying that's still very much in our bodies. And what a gift as an artist, as an actor, as a storyteller to be so invested naturally because we're a part of it. But this play in particular, that our higher purpose and our duty and our mission was to tell this story 8 shows a week. So, I mean, similar to what Atu said, it's a matter of that it challenged my body, it challenged my soul, but it made me stronger as an artist. And yeah, this play was a dream come true because of my scene partner and all of the other actors that were involved in the entire team. It's rare that you have such a perfect combination and mixture and formula of a play on Broadway. It changed me forever.
Yeah, and I think it bears mentioning now that James and I have, I don't know, we went to grad school together. We've been friends for almost 8 years now, and we were very, very close in grad school. We did a lot of duo acts together, and the fact
we did drag.
We did that. That's true. But the fact that we got to do this together was also something really, really magical. And we would say to each other often throughout the run, I cannot imagine doing this with anyone else. Yeah, there had been this history built that I think also fed the relationship that was on the stage. Yeah.
Who got cast first?
I got, when the play was done up at the O'Neill, that's when I was first invited to be a part of a reading of it in the workshop, and then I got the offer for New York Theater Workshop from the reading, and then...
And I wasn't able to do the O'Neill, right. And so I had to audition for the New York Theater Workshop production.
But I sent him the script earlier because I was
because he's a good friend.
I said, babe, there's been edits to your big monologue here, and so I sent him the PDF, and I gave him a little advantage. And I was like, you have to get this role.
That's what friends do. Right?
Exactly.
That's
exactly what
they
do.
Yeah. All right. So how did you each get involved with the play? Was your role written for you or in mind to Jeremy?
It was written in mind, and yes, and for me. I became friends with Jeremy the summer before he went to grad school, before he went to Yale, and we stayed friends. And I tell this story a lot, but I was literally driving Jeremy up to class in my car, and he was typing away in his laptop in the passenger seat because the part of the act 1 of the play was due to his teacher. And we're pulled over at a rest station, at a gas station, and he's like, can you read some of this? Tell me, does this make sense? And it was part of my monologue. And so to be at a gas station on 95, driving up to New Haven, Connecticut, to now, it's just, it's wild. So I started then, and then I saw the production at Yale, and we've remained friends, and it's been the greatest gift. Yeah.
So take me back to your initial reaction the first time you read the play, and what made you say, I have to do this or be a part of this?
I also went up and saw the workshop up at Yale, Jeremy's second year.
Oh, so you were not in the workshop?
No.
Either.
No, we were different generations.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
we had graduated at that point.
Yeah.
But so I went up to see it, and having gone through that program, I was like, they're doing what on stage? Like, they're doing that play? And I just thought to myself, like, had this been here when I was a student here, I think my whole entire experience would have been shifted. And at that point, I was like, I need to figure out a way to be a part of this production. So I kind of chased it down. Yeah.
So you read it in parts, James, right? So the first time you read it in its entirety, like what went through your mind? What were your reactions, your initial reactions?
First, I had never, ever read anything like it.
Yeah.
I was so proud of my friend for his intelligence, his bravery, his artistry, his imagination. And, you know, it wasn't easy for Jeremy when he was doing this play up at Yale. He got a lot of backlash for it, and he talks about it publicly. And for him to have stayed true to his mission and his writing and what he wanted to talk about within this play, I mean, that's also something that I reacted to. I was his strength, his perseverance against people that wanted to censor him, and he didn't listen. And that's a beautiful thing, because now look where the play took itself. Yeah. So when I first read it, I wanted to be involved in any way that I possibly could.
Well, I'd love for you, the two of you, to talk about the roles that you played of Dustin and Gary and how they functioned in the play. Like, let's talk about, dissect those roles. They're so beautifully written.
Yeah. I think Jeremy did he says this thing where all of the characters are sort of just like parts of him, you know, and Jeremy and I also have a friendship, and so it was nice to like be able to translate at different points, sort of like, oh yeah, I can see him here, I can see him, you know, in different places in the play. But similarly to James, Gary was kind of molded around with me in mind, and so like, so I feel like I'm sorry, I'm getting like a little emotional about it right now.
Go ahead, yeah.
There were so many aspects of this character that were me. There were many that weren't, but the ones that were deeply personal and felt a little dangerous, and so that felt like another prod to like, yes, you sort of need to lean into this. But Gary and Dustin have like reached this impasse in their relationship where the power dynamic is proving to be unhealthy for them. And so they're coming to this therapy to sort of shift the power dynamic. And I think Gary starts at a place where he doesn't value himself in this relationship, and I think he has allowed himself to be devalued in this relationship, and that's what he's struggling with. He's struggling with, how do I take ownership of my power and of myself inside my blackness, you know?
And Dustin as his partner, they're trying to figure out this power dynamic, but a big problem of it is Dustin's inability to look at his own privilege, and he oftentimes in the play makes it about his own suffering and his own experience, where a lot of times he can't face the reality of his black partner right next to him. So the wrestling that he goes through within the play, but also the outside world of the play, is, you know, Jeremy, when he was writing this role, I just read something that, you know, he said about it, and in terms of his brown friends or people of mixed backgrounds that have the ability to walk into any space as as a white passing person and have all the privileges that comes with. But there is a slight tilt of the head of like, where are you from? Who are you? And you know, Jeremy wrote this with me in mind. I'm half Arab, and you know, Dustin's struggle is that he can't see his own privilege walking into a room, that he has that ability to pass. His partner does not, and he's really trying to be there for him, be there for his partner, but his own narcissism gets in the way.
Yeah. Beautifully put, both of you. Jeremy O. Harris is one of the greatest new voices writing for the American theater. What was it like living in his words and the world he created of slave play?
Madness. It was absolute madness. Like, legitimately, like,
Yeah.
toward the end of the run, I remember being backstage with Sullivan, who played Philip, and like we would have these moments where we'd be like, "What is this play? What are we do? This is crazy." Yeah. You know what I mean? And there was no moment where we were like, "All right, this is normalized." It's just like a year and a half of a run.
Yeah.
Still. You know, and James and I were also talking earlier when we were headed here about how much, again, like you said, like it's still in the body. It's because so much of this play deals with trauma, and trauma lives in the body, right? And so as an actor, when you're touching that trauma, you maybe unwittingly put it in your body, you know what I mean? And like, I'm still doing things to sort of like release it from me. I remember the week after the show, I was like, Epsom salt baths with lavender bubble bath was like my thing. It was like, that's how I'm gonna get through this, you know? And I just remember a week after the show, I was like, all right, I'm taking my bath, I'm doing my, and I found myself speaking Gary's monologue. In like, I'm laying in a bath trying to relax, and like it's still coming out, you know? And I had to have this moment where I was like, Gary doesn't live here anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he's not here.
Thrash about in my sleep sometimes naturally, and I woke up and I was doing the choreography of sorts of like as if I'm like pushing my scene partner.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it was crazy. It's like, it's so layered that it's easy to lose yourself inside of it, you know, which is a great thing, but also like something that as an actor you really need to pay attention to. How do you care for yourself while you're doing this, you know?
And the subject matter in these characters, the veil is so thin.
Yeah.
So when you leave the play, you don't leave the play because you walk out on the street and you witness these power dynamics. You witness this every day. You experience it. Microaggressions, all of it. And you know, there was so much wonderful conversation and press about the play, and energy of, you know, people that would see the play and would want to talk afterwards. And you know, sometimes that was really it was uplifting, but also that energy exchange is quite draining. So there's a lot of self-preservation that had to go into place, boundaries with friends, with loved ones, with the outside public of getting through this. And I've said this before, but you know, the first thing is that when you walk into work every day is reminding yourself that 800 people have not heard this story yet, and so this is for them. This night, this performance. And it doesn't matter if I'm tired. It doesn't matter if we've been doing this play now for 3 months. We got to pull up, you know? And I get to look into this one's eye. So it's like, okay, I'm energized. This will work. Yeah.
Was this probably the most intense piece of work you've done so far in your careers?
Hands down.
Yes,
I tend to do like really emotionally heavy stuff. Like I very rarely do I do a comedy, but as you like it, you know. But very rarely do I do something that feels like bubbly or up, and this is by far the hardest thing I have ever done. So, yeah.
Same.
James,
Absolutely. Yeah, there's something, you know, certain characters have certain discoveries or epiphanies or revelations within the play, but the play still sits in a place of questions and not complete answers. So that energy that exists at the Golden Theater every night around 2:10, at 10:10, 2 hours and 10 minutes, you kind of go home with it, and it stays in your body, and those questions are still percolating. And yeah, it's by far the hardest thing. My body's still recouping. Yeah.
You know, you started to talk about just, you know, when you live in this kind of world that Jeremy's put out there, then you step into the real world afterwards and you see that all these questions are still out there. you know, it must really like sit really like in your mind, like, wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like there is no escape, which I think was part of like the whole thrust of the production, like the sort of idea behind the production was like that's the reason there was no intermission. That's the reason there was a mirror there. It's like there's no way you cannot leave this. It's in front of you. You're a part of it. And I think that when you're talking about race in America, that is a stance we have to take. You cannot leave this. Yeah. It must be faced. You know, which I really appreciate about this play.
Yeah, yeah. What makes Jeremy such a wonderful and brilliant playwright?
Well, so many things.
Go.
He deeply loves people.
Yeah.
He loves people and all their flaws and their eccentricities and the detail of language and their vulnerabilities. And he puts that in the text, and he provides that space in the room. But among so many other things, I mean, Jeremy also deeply cares about his actors. He deeply cares about the people that are telling the story every night. And so, you know, for him to have, he has, as much as he has his pen in his hand, he also has a wide open ear to hear your experience as a storyteller within this. From Robert O'Hara, our director, to any actor or any experience within the play, he wants it to be the best it possibly can be. And he wants to tell the truth.
Yeah, and on top of it all, like, he is fearless. Yeah. You know, he is bold, and he realizes that in order to affect change, he needs to continue to be bold and push, and he continues to do that. And he is about the things he says he's about, which is sort of, I think, what makes him such a singular voice. You know, it's a deep authenticity. You know.
Then there is your director, Robert O'Hara. What specifically makes him one of the most sought-after directors, and how different was his rehearsal room from other rehearsal rooms you've been in? I've been fascinated about the process. I talked to Robert during the downtown when you were at New York Theater Workshop, and uptown. I would love to have been in the rehearsal room for this play. What was that like?
I like to refer to Robert as kind of like he's like a very emotionally distant father. You're just like, I know you love me. Yeah. I know there's love here, but like, he's not going to be effusive about sort of telling you that you're great, or like that really worked, or about, there's none of that. And so as an actor, and I had been warned, so as an actor, you just like, how do I make myself self-sufficient in this rehearsal process? Which was, I think, was really smart on Robert's part, because like we needed to take such ownership of these roles and this process. So him kind of like laying back allowed us to really throw stuff. You know, we're like, he's not going to give us this, that we have to like find this as a company, you know, which I think was really, really smart of him.
And he also allowed a lot of freedom. He would say, I need you to get to point A and then get to point B. And he didn't care how you got there. But if you didn't do it right and you didn't get to point A, then you'd know. But he would never come back with a compliment that you got to point A or B. No. He would just, if the moment moved on and the rehearsal moved on, then you know that you did it. And which,
so that's how you knew.
That's how you knew. Yeah.
Which to me is like 180 from any other rehearsal room I've ever been in.
Yes.
I think there's a desire for this sort of like, yeah, keep going, keep doing that thing, which I think works. But I now realize that this also works and is empowering in its own way. You know,
you find it as a company.
Yeah.
Because the one thing about it, for those of you who saw a Slay play, your performances that you gave are so truthful, so in the moment. And I don't know how you do what you do, but you're so masterful at what you do. And I'm sure it all started there, of you all trusting yourselves and trusting each other. And that's the power that Robert gave you in the rehearsal room. What was it like having Robert and Jeremy in the room together? Like, what were those, what kind of conversations did you have? Were you allowed to, like you said, Robert sort of said, get from A to B, but what kind of conversations did you have with Jeremy in the room during the rehearsal process, or were there conversations?
In the beginning at New York Theater Workshop, there was a lot of conversation. There was a lot of detailed table work, but also conversations up in the space in the room. And I mean, they're a dynamic duo, and so they kind of riff off of each other. But you know, Robert sometimes needs his space, so Jeremy would disappear for a couple days and come back, and then come back and check in. And but between them, I mean, Robert is a hero of Jeremy's, and so there was a lot of trust already placed into Robert's hands.
And the work that they're interested in, Robert is also a writer, and the work that they make lives like in conversation, you know. I think Jeremy once used the term like it's like theatrical lineage or something. It just when you think about plays like Booty Candy, Robert's play Booty Candy, or when you think about plays like Barbecue, that are they have a lot of the same DNA as slave play in various moments, in small ways. Like when you think about that shift in Barbecue, you know, like that's something that like lived in slave play as well. You know, you thought it was one thing, but you got something else. And so I feel like they're both interested in the same thing as artists. So they really were a dynamic duo. Yeah.
Then there's the ensemble. I mean, you were a perfect cast. I mean, like you said, you can see how you all got together from a very early point because you all had to take this journey and find this together. What was it like sharing the stage with this company 8 times a week?
I mean, the biggest honor. The other actors in this play, we were such a family.
Yeah.
And there was such a trust involved. Like we've been talking about, it was not easy to do every night, but the fact that I could come backstage and have a hug from any one of these people, we really lifted each other up.
Yeah.
And these other actors are tremendous, and there would be things that would happen on stage that they would a snafu or something that and we'd catch each other, and it happened, and we'd always catch each other. There's something that, you know, Atu and I came back from when we were in grad school, is that I will and we repeated this to each other, and the phrase is, "I will hold you up, I will never let you fall," and that was the slave play cast.
Yeah. And I think like also in rehearsal process, like people like Sullivan, who were so like playful and always reinvesting and and kind of like finding new things, really encouraged, I think, the company as a whole to be in a place where we were always looking for like, can we go deeper? What can we find? Like, I feel like there were different strengths that everybody brought that allowed us all to sort of like elevate as a company. Like you have Annie, who's like a master comedian, like, and her timing is amazing, and she'll never do it the same twice, which reminds you that like you have the freedom to actually just like make this fresh for yourself every single time. You know, it was a great reminder for me. It was lots of great lessons were learned as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there something specifically that, you know, there's always an unlocking of a character that really sets you down a path saying, I can take this journey. Was there something that unlocked each of these roles for you that you could tell our audience about? Was there something, a certain day in rehearsal or something, or even a preview, where something that happened and you were like, wow, I've got Dustin now, I've got Gary now, or I'm on the right path?
I don't know if I ever got the character down right, but that
they did, right?
But that sense of play and that inspiration that Atu was just talking about from the other actors, that really kept me motivated on my own toes every day. But there was a moment very early on, back at the O'Neill, when Jeremy was making rewrites, and for the first time, Robert, it's the big monologue in Act 2 when I jump out, and my "I'm not white" monologue, and I'm bouncing around the stage. You know, Robert, for the first time in a long time, that I felt permission from a director, that he said, you can allow yourself, I forget exactly what he said, but he said, you can allow yourself to be insane. You can allow yourself to take up space. You can allow yourself to lose yourself within the text. And just that moment that he allowed me to play and actually have fun, no matter the dialogue or the subject matter, I was granted permission to play and to be seen. And you know, I've had a short career so far, but it's to get to a place in a play where you feel profound permission and a sense of ownership. That's the greatest gift ever. And so it was early on that back at the O'Neill that Robert gave me that freedom, that I could use my full instrument and I could use my insanity and all the dark parts about me. And he said, you need to bring that to light. And so that was a big moment for me.
Because that monologue is such a revelation for you in that show. So it's so interesting to hear that story of how you got there. Really brilliant for you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there were two lines in this play that like were the center of this character. One of them was "Motherfucker, I am the prize,"
Yeah.
and the other one was "Nobody but my mama had ever told me I was a prize," because to me, that says that that says something about where Gary lands, where he ends up, and it also says something about like what his deepest hurt actually is. I think both. There's this moment that they talk about that they talked about in acting class, where there's like a symbiosis between like the writer and the actor, like what the writer was intending. And for me, Jeremy and I never talked about this, but I felt like Nobody But My Mama Had Ever Told Me I Was a Prize was a place that Jeremy and I like came into like alignment, because I know some of the relation about the relationship he has with his mother, but my relationship with my mother is like deeply important to me. And so that when I felt like I was in alignment with Jeremy was like, I was like, I found the character. I found my way in, because I feel like I understand something about Jeremy that he didn't directly say to me, you know?
We have so many actors in the room tonight, and we're watching this around the world. What's the best bit of advice that you've been given that you live by, either personally or professionally?
There are two. Okay, I'm thinking of two. Stephen McKinley Henderson said to me, "You don't have." In his class, he was like, "You don't need to get it right. You need to get it true." Which I think is just like, it frees you. Like, what is it? How is it real for you? Like, what is the truth of this moment for you? And I think another thing that is important to note is like, ultimately people are coming for a connection to like something that feels authentic, right? And authenticity is really about like not trying to be anybody else but who you are, you know? And I think that's something I keep growing into as an actor, is like, I'm only gonna sort of follow my artistic bliss, and then like beyond that, what works for other people might not necessarily work for me. So to really know like, what is it I'm after, what is it that turns me on artistically, and just really actively pursue that thing, I think is something that I feel like will sustain me as an actor for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Beautifully put. For you, James.
For me, it was, I think, something a teacher said to me up at school was that to have full faith in the statement that there will never be another you, and that there's no one else like you. This business can be incredibly competitive. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of traps within it. But you just got to run the race and believe in yourself. And the second that you look back at the other person behind you in the race, you've lost. You're taking a look at that other person that has nothing to do with you, that is gorgeous and beautiful in their own sphere, in their own artistry. And what you have to bring to the world and what they have to bring to the world are two separate things entirely. And to have just trust and faith in that. And, you know, the biggest thing for me is that I've come across a lot of no's in my life. And it's a matter of what you do with the no, what you do with that piece of rejection. Do you take the no? Do you absorb it and make it about you and make it about your failure? Or do you take the no and move on to the next table? Andre DeShield said it in his Tony speech. You fill your life with people whose eyes light up when they see you.
Yeah.
Go to those people. Go where it's warm. Go where the light is. That's it.
This has been beautiful. You know, Slave Play is one of the most groundbreaking plays, period, of any century, of anything, what Jeremy has written. And you two were such a part of that, just in your performances and just the actors that you are. This has been so great tonight, just sitting with the two of you. This has been a master class for everybody sitting here and watching. You've been so honest about so many things. And I thank you so much for sharing your stories and your journey with Slave Play.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for them.
Thanks for having me.